Hello, all. Hey, Max.
Hey, how are you?
So good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
Yeah. And Andrea, welcome. You're on mute. And what part of the world are you in?
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, are you staying dry?
Yeah. The rain hasn't really showed up very hard yet.
Okay. And how did you come to be with us today?
Well, I've studied some narrative coaching. I've been through a program for that, and
Huh.
I learned about your work, and
Yeah,
you guys sent me an email, so I thought I'd check it out.
great. And Shar, I see that you're on video, on audio, but not video. Do you want to say hello?
Yes, hello, aloha. I'm calling in from Hawaii,
Okay.
and I am just delighted to be here. And I decided that I've been curious about the curriculum around narrative coaching, and I know that you have a long-standing voice in this space, and so I'm just here to glean and potentially consider what this would look like for me if I participated in a completely different time zone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Sarah, just say hello to you as well. Great. All right. Well, let me just go and get started, and we'll welcome others when they come in. We had a bunch of people coming in late this morning for our call, so maybe we'll have more today too. So, all right. So what brings you here today, Max?
I'm coming to refresh myself. So
Okay.
yeah, I got the emails as Andrea mentioned, and I thought, I think I'll drop back in and
Okay.
yeah.
Well, good to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you. I hope that you're a little hairier than when I saw you
I was on a lark. I rebelled and decided not to shave, and then I decided I actually liked it. So
it becomes you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think earlier in my life I tried it once and I didn't like it, but now it works really well.
Yeah.
I'm really quite happy.
Very it makes you look very wise.
Well, finally, I've been trying for years.
Yay! And where are you, David?
I moved back to Portland, Oregon after my daughter left. So she's studying in Germany now, and with the pandemic, some of my options of where I've been planning to move didn't pan out, and my relationship with my sweetie in Amsterdam was a casualty of the pandemic, and so I decided to come back amongst old friends. I lived here for a long time and left the Bay Area and came up here again, and then we'll see where I go next.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's all good.
Life is ever evolving, isn't it?
It is. I tried standing still, but it just keeps spinning.
No, it's just well overrated, I must say. So
yeah. So let me Andrea, were you mostly interested in the narrative coaching program? We might be able to sort of focus our conversation around that. Is that what you're most curious about at the moment?
I'm not sure. I've been through a narrative coaching program, but I didn't feel like it was enough. So I'm not sure if I would be interested in that or one of the other programs.
Okay. All right. Well, we have kind of a small group today, so maybe I'll just skip the slides for now. And if you feel withdrawal symptoms and you want slides, I can put some up. But if not, we can just have a conversation. So I started the field of narrative coaching about 20 some odd years ago in the wake of my dissertation, and narrative coaching for me is really, I'm doing a number of research projects next year on the future of coaching. And so we're going to use narrative coaching as a springboard to help look at coaching more globally in terms of how we develop coaches who can respond to the needs that we're facing now. So that program's 9 months. It has 9 modules. It meets in two, to Shar, to your question, each session is done twice that day at 10 a.m. Eastern time and 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we have students from all over the world. And we're doing some things this year a little bit differently in that we're giving people more opportunities to practice. We're starting for the first time ever a graduate series for all of our NC graduates over the years, of which there's thousands of them now. And I've partnered with an AI-based video platform, which is the first in its kind in the world to allow you to see yourself, get feedback, dialogue with the reviewer, all in the same space. And what we've done, one big pilot, we're starting a second one in January. And what we're finding is it's giving coaches a completely accelerated path to identify and improve where they need to get better at their narrative coaching. So, and it's part of these projects we're doing next year to really deepen our thinking about how does one develop mastery as a narrative coach. And it's not about the training. The training is the beginning. It's not the end. And so there's a lot of commitment, a lot of things we're doing starting next year. Well, I keep saying next year, this year. It's always that time of, early January where the language is confusing. But where we're going to be working with graduates and students to really take all the best research that I and others have done around how do you actually create masterful practitioners. So that feels really exciting. And will be very much part of the narrative coaching experience. Yeah, and so for Shar, for you, for Andrea, for Sarah, if you can hear us, what questions would be helpful to you, or what would you like to know about the program that would be meaningful to you?
I'll go ahead and jump in. This is Shar speaking.
Yes.
So I understand, I've gone to your website and I know that there are 3 different programs
Yes.
that are all associated. And I'm just trying to figure out, based off of where I stand, I currently hold ACC credentials, and I probably have enough hours to, go off the chart because I've been coaching for several years, but just never pursued further credentialing. How do each of the programs potentially support, I guess, attaining PCC and PCC?
So for all of the programs, you will get an equal number of credit hours. And what we hear from our students is they can use those along the resource track in ICF, if that's important to them towards their qualifications. The narrative coaching one is the most easily translated because they're all directly coaching skills. I've not heard, it's not as often that people from other programs try to use those for ICF because they often are working in either other spaces or just are not part of the ICF ecosystem. But you will get credit hours that you can use however you choose to use them. So the main distinctions, and so one of the things I actually literally was just getting off the phone with our team, is that we're going to bring, basically merge the ID and our programs together. So where those came from, just maybe as a bit of context as you think about the suite of the 3 programs, even for you, Andrea, I used to do a lot of leadership programs for in universities and for companies I used to do a lot of major change projects. And I just started to realize that I just was investing a lot of energy to manage the process with clients, but I wasn't really very confident that we were achieving very much that lasted at all. So I haven't done a traditional training for an organization for 8 years. I'll never do them again. It's a waste of my life and of their money. And so I started to think, well, what's a better way we could do this? What do people actually need now? And so to make a long story short, how it's unfolded is that now in year 26 of my coaching career and having worked in this space more broadly for 35 years, I've come down to realize that the most significant variable that I'm tracking with a client, whether they're in a workshop or they're a client in coaching, is what is this human being ready for right now? That's the only thing that matters.
Mm.
And we get all caught up and excited about our stuff, but it doesn't matter if the client isn't going to do anything. So if readiness becomes the variable, then and that's going to be different for every person. If you have a group, then it sort of does away with this fantasy. We can create one curriculum, one agenda, one everything for a whole group of people. And so over the years, I started doing these really innovative projects with clients where we would do customized, well, they're basically workshops that were basically extended coaching sessions where we'd have a core outcome from the company. We'd have core resources. We'd have a couple of coaches. We'd help everybody identify where are you now relative to what needs to happen and what do you need to take the next steps to get closer. And then we would coach you to that. And so I built up a whole body of work, a whole theory called integrative development, which started out merging training, coaching, and OD, and became ultimately the capacity to identify what is the learning potential in this moment in time. Whether you've got a bad driver in front of you, whether you've just had a difficult conversation, whether somebody has an epiphany in a workshop but doesn't know what to do with that. And so the way we think about this, if there's a moment in time where there's something that's available for somebody that could be planned or unplanned, and narrative release is the capacity to develop yourself so you can be in that space with them and stop trying to be helpful, stop trying to tell them what to do, stop trying to coach them, and just be in the moment to see what's wanting to happen. That takes a lot of spiritual depth. It takes a lot of personal and emotional maturity. It takes a much broader lens on what's going on than most of us were trained in. So that's the inner work to work this way. And ID basically has evolved to be the outer work. So now that somebody's ready and you're ready with them, how do you help them learn or grow from what's available? And so we have a whole body of work and a whole bunch of tools, and a lot's evolved since you went through the program during that sort of brave adventure that first year of the pandemic, Max, but is helping you leverage that moment with that person to see what's available to them. So we're going to merge them because you need both of these. So we have a lot of people that are really into yoga and mindfulness, but don't really know how to do the nuts and bolts of how do you actually help somebody develop. We have a lot of people that are former trainers and facilitators who are educators like you, Max. How do we help them let go of that need to do all that, to just stay present? And so Emily and I we were just meeting today about we're probably going to postpone the launch of those two programs until March to give us a chance to rebuild the whole thing. A lot's changed on a number of fronts in the last 3 months, and we don't want to do something that's not ready. And so we thought rather than do one more year like this, we're going to take a time out and rebuild it the way that we ideally want it now. And we'll do some small things to keep people engaged and supported, but we think that what we're on to is really exciting. I just presented on this work in Berlin at a coaching research conference. And even with the meagerest of descriptions, we had 40% of the conference came to my workshop about this, because people realized a lot of what they had been trained to do isn't adequate anymore. And they're really curious about what we could do instead. So narrative coaching will offer you, Shara, a really sort of advanced way of thinking about coaching. It will challenge a lot of the ICF competency frameworks. And you can use all of that to re-engineer it at the end to show it how it maps to their competencies. And we find it just liberates coaches to be much more effective, work with much more ease with their clients. And the narrative release and ID is really for what comes after coaching. And how do you take what you learned in narrative coaching and apply it at any moment in your day? Does that make any sense?
That's very helpful.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so what are you hearing in that that's meaningful for you?
Well, what I appreciate is the true to its name, the integrative approach. What I found in my own coaching is that I've spent an awful lot of time working with clients in exploring their inner capacities, but then the application for the action, the taking action piece, the what next, what now, there's a gap.
Yes. Yeah, and to that sharp point, even the way that coaching is contracted for. So coaching clients, and I know there's a whole bunch of research which we bring into these programs that we share with you, but there's an inverse relationship between what clients spend money on and what actually makes a difference. So clients don't change because of coaching sessions. They change because of what they do based on what happened in coaching sessions, for which we're not there, right? So I've had a couple of clients this last year where they're coaching, they paid by the hour, but the coaching session was 15 minutes. And 45 minutes was allocated for following up on what they were doing with what they did with the 15 minutes. I didn't need more than 15 minutes to get to the crux of their issue. And then we built out some things for them to go experiment with. And then we had these brief check-ins that first week. What did you do with that thing we just talked about? It was infinitely more effective than if I had spent the entire hour even just practicing with them, because they needed to see themselves out in the wild, if you will, trying what they said they wanted to do. So I think that there's a lot of what we're trying to, part of the research and the big projects we're doing next year are how do we reframe and recontract for coaching so it actually mirrors how people actually learn and change. And the narrative coaching, I think, does it really well effectively in the coaching session, better than a more traditional approach. And particularly in the world that we live in right now, that's just not enough. And so our narrative coaching participants this year will have access to the research that's going to be unfolding across the year. We're going to weave that into our own program. It's definitely a part of our graduate efforts. And so you'll have chances as a narrative coaching student to hang out on occasion in our community forum with graduates, so you can hear what they're doing and how they're talking about all this. So, yeah. Yeah.
This is very exciting for me. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
most
it.
welcome. I'm going to open up the chat box to see if there's nothing in there from Sarah. So Sarah, if you have any point along the way you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat box, or if you want to come off mute, you can ask us as well.
I apologize. I've been quiet. I've been over here eating dinner because it's the first time I've had a chance to eat. So
Oh, no.
I thought I should mute myself for that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I am new to coaching, and I've been exploring opportunities for building out my toolkit, and was doing some informational interviews with other coaches who've been doing this a lot longer. And one of them recommended your program as in amongst a few that she suggested I look at. And so she gave me the link to be able to do one of these to kind of hear a little bit more about it, see if it might be a fit.
And what are you learning so far in your quest to understand more about coaching, and how could we be helpful to you in terms of understanding how narrative coaching might fit in?
I think maybe a little bit more context, because I am a little bit of an untraditional coach as far as like I have no formal training in it. It's just something that I've done. So my background is, well, my background is military. So of course you have some of their aspects of leadership training and
Sure.
that kinds of things. And I did a lot of mentoring there. And then I worked in academia, specifically as an advisor, working with veteran students and counseling them and doing those kinds of things.
Okay.
I've unofficial experience, but not any sort of formal training. So I'm sort of feeling out programs to see
Yeah.
what sounds right.
Okay. Well, so two things. So one is I can't totally vouch for Max, but Max and I know Max for a number of years. She's been a student in our programs in the past. I would easily describe Max and I as unconventional. You would find a lot of kindred spirits that way. And I myself have never had any coach training. I have 4 degrees. I've studied human behavior for 35 years, and I created narrative coaching because I didn't like most of what I saw in the coaching space 25 years ago. It's still true. And the second thing is we have like one of our advisory board members and a couple of our key community members are longstanding coaches in the veteran space. And so we also can connect you with them to, if that's an audience you want to do coaching with, and talk about how we can hook you up to connect about how they've used narrative coaching in that space. I've done a number of, through a couple of them, I've done a number of brief sessions with veterans. And the narrative coaching works well because it really we spend our energy focusing on the human being, not on the coaching methodology. And a lot of veterans suffer to varying degrees around trauma, around a lot of issues. And there's space we're not therapists per se, but there's more space in narrative coaching to deal with the whole human than there is in many coaching methodologies, which tend, in my experience, to be overly cognitive. And so it's something that I think you would relate to. So your lack of formal coaching training would not be a hindrance for you. Your experience in what you've done in the military and academia would serve you really well. So I wouldn't let that be a concern.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the context regarding veterans, because that is the majority of my coaching clients are women veterans who have a very particular set of issues that they have to cope with, both in military transition and then post-military life. And so I'm just looking for more opportunities to be able to help them further. And I like the idea of narrative coaching because I'm also a writer, so it kind of, kind of feeds into that. That's a great word, narrative. And so, yeah, so I'm just interested in learning more about what the program is and sort of what to expect. I did read through the different types, but now that you're talking about sort of combining them, kind of what that would look like from is it going to make the program longer? Is it, what's the time frame going to be, that kind of stuff? And you said that's delivered twice a day.
Yeah, so then
more about that.
Yeah, so the narrative coaching program will start in January, and it'll be the same as it's always been. So that one's not changing at all. It's the other two which are newer programs, which we're going to bring together. So narrative coaching is 9 months. It's 9 modules. Every module has the same sort of rhythm to it. It's got a couple of sessions that are live with your cohort. Right now we have, I think, 60 people in the program. So that's about 30 in the morning and 30 in the afternoon. Not everybody comes. Everything's recorded. Everything's available to you 24/7 and a resource center, as well as a way to connect with your fellow students. There will be a number of resource videos and documents so that we can use a lot of our precious FaceTime to practice and talk to each other. You will be in a mastermind group with people in your region. So it's usually about 7 to 8, 9 people. And within that, we will help you set up peer triads for you to practice. And we're going to do even more of that this year because we found that really valuable to people. Many of our mastermind groups still meet. And then the other big change we're making is that the push for some people who wanted certification meant that we ended up kind of rushing in a way. So this year, you're just going to have the whole program is complete at 9 months. And then there's a 3-month gap. And then in which you can do things in our online space. And then we're going to start certification as a 5-month module the following year. So for those who want to be certified, they can come do that. And that'll be on our new platform with video support, etc. And that's really focused on practice. So that you get direct feedback and support around specific things that you want to grow in yourself to become better at this. And it's not about learning more stuff. It's about practice and feedback and support for your growth. Yeah.
I just want to share that I like that you're unconventional. That fits my bill too. How do I say this? I went through a narrative health coaching, and a lot of us found a lot of it, what was being asked in terms of having clients do exercises didn't work. So I have been in the arts and entertainment industry for a really long time. I was a professional makeup artist. So I realized that I am very good at being in the moment, and I was always listening to people and helping them get centered so they could go out and connect their innards to the exterior and make this presentation. And that gave me a lot of experience in intuiting where a person was at. So I think after hearing you speak that I don't think I would need to go through the narrative coaching modules again, but I would like more experience in the coaching process. I mean, I also have a lot of experience. I have a own personal therapy background in Jungian psychology. So done a lot of dream work, which did not get addressed in the, I mean, I have all this stuff that never got addressed within the context of being a narrative coach, but I've used it and in a way that was a suggestion and not an agenda, you know, and giving a person that I was coaching other ways of reframing their experience or seeing what was happening. So
yeah, so if that feels true for you, then maybe when in March we'll open up this new combined program. We're also at that point going to open up the new graduate offers in narrative coaching, which is all about practice and the coaching process. So that might be a better fit for you.
yeah, it might be. I mean, I had 2 long-term pro bono. They were in my class, and then we worked together for a long time. And one of them lives in the Ukraine, in Kiev, and another one of the coaches that went through the training, she's in Kiev too. So I lost touch with one of them, but so that's quite an experience. How do you coach somebody who's in a situation like that? So maybe the combined thing would be better.
Okay, and that would be an option as well. And so we won't have the information about that up for until next week. But if you're on our mailing list now, so you'll get announcements when that's ready to go, and both of them, and you can make the choice which route would be better for you, and just to practice more narrative coaching and from the source, or to try our new combined program, which I think you'd really enjoy. Yeah.
I'm just curious what what you feel the value is of being certified. I mean, who does that speak to? Because,
You're asking the wrong person.
okay. Because
Well,
I'm not sure that.
So, and Shar can speak to this maybe better than I can. So I've contributed a lot to people like ICF and EMC for years, just for the betterment of the profession. I've never been certified. I'll never be certified. It's not something that is meaningful to me. What I observe is that people that are newer at coaching find a lot of value in an association because they're trying to find their tribe, they're trying to learn, get better, feel supported. So that seems helpful. There are some people who work in spaces and industries or whatever that looks for those kind of certifications. And so having one gives you a leg up compared to some others. The projects, one of the big projects I'm doing next year is really offering a more advanced paradigm about how to actually assess coaches, because competencies is a very limiting approach, period. It's not, and ICF has done a wonderful job over the years trying to make theirs better and better. And for me, it's still, the whole frame itself is not adequate for, especially for the world that we live in. But there's some people that like, that maybe are happy as a intermediate coach, like the community of ICF. They do a lot of wonderful events and conferences, and that really works for them. I'm not a joiner that way in total. So it's not something I would gravitate towards, but like I said, I'm glad they do what they do, and I'm happy to support that. All the while, I'm going to be provoking them to get better. Yeah. Yeah.
David, do you see that Shar asked a question?
No, I did not see that.
Chat.
Oh, it's not showing up in my chat for some reason. I wonder why.
I don't know, but she said, is the narrative coaching program the prerequisite for the new program?
So great question. So the way we frame this is that that there's a common philosophy, sort of almost in some ways a spiritual philosophy that underpins everything I've done my whole life, all of this work. So we find that for most people, it's going to challenge some of your assumptions about the roles you think you're supposed to play in working with other people. I too have a Jungian background. I was on the Jung board here in Oregon for a long time. And so for people that want their first exposure to this way of working, Narrative Coach is a much easier place to start. It's a program I've taught for 20 years. It's well established. We have 3 great faculty that teach with me. It's in a frame that people recognize called coaching. So it's an easier on-ramp. If you already have some exposure to my work or narrative in general, if you do things that are beyond coaching, and then the new program would be fine for you. It just would be a deeper, quicker dive into the philosophy. If you don't mind that, if that's how you want to roll, then great. But we tell most people find it easier to start with narrative coaching, but that's not required. We treat you like an adult. We trust that you'll make your choice. You've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you start one and realize you want to do the other, we'll switch you out. So there's no hassle there. But that's what we recommend. Start with narrative coaching unless you already have some background. And the good news is that this program, the new program, is where we're going to now be. I won't say that we're out of the pandemic, but a lot of the way we structured our programs was our best guess at what was happening in the pandemic. It's still present with us and will be present with us for the rest of our life in a way, but we feel like we've got a grasp now on what's going on in a way that the program that we're going to rebuild now is one will last the duration, like narrative coaching. So it'll be here when you get ready for it if you don't want to take it now. Yeah. Is there anything else that would be helpful to folks today? Maybe Sarah's done with her dinner. Maybe she can come back on.
No, I'm done with dinner. I'm just thinking about whether I have enough information to ask any good questions, or whether I just need to go back and do a little bit of diving in and looking at the details again of the program and the time commitment.
Okay. Well, even if you don't have a well thought out question, you're welcome to ask it. You don't have to have the perfect question. And if you want more time, if you like want to go read some more or think some more, you can just reach out to us at miconnect@themomentinstitute.com. That'll be on the email that you'll get after this call. And just reach out and we'll get somebody to talk to you if you have further questions.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where
I
do-
think, David,
Okay.
one thing sorry, Andrea, one thing I might suggest is, your book,
Mhm.
your coaching is, I get no kickbacks for this. But I think it gives a good introduction
Yeah.
to that level. I don't think you haven't finished your book on integrative development, right?
No.
No.
Well, and I can tell you why later, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's for good reasons. I think I'm really happy with what's happening now. So
Yeah.
But the narrative coaching book, it's a lot. It's designed as a sort of field book, or so all of the foundational elements of narrative coaching. So it's it's not an easy read in the sense like it's not a novel. But it's great, particularly the first few chapters. It's a great context setting about where narrative coaching came from, what it stands for, why it is the way it is, what it believes. And you can also go online and search. There's a number of articles and things I've written over the years that are also talk about narrative coaching. Yeah. Andrea, did you have another question? Were we interrupting you before?
No, I just realized that when you said how you don't have a certificate and you never will, and that doesn't really, I felt relief about that to observe that you have confidence in what works best for you, and then you make that work in your work. Whereas I feel some not wonder, but what is going to be expected of me when I'm out there, so to speak. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, it just made me think, that I need to allow myself to say what I'm comfortable doing or believing in.
Yeah.
But I don't know how it works in the working world.
In the working world, most of our clients don't care. Some do. So, like I said before, some industries and some spaces, particularly where coaching is newer, they sort of rely on those certifications as a benchmark. The most common, maybe Max can speak to this, the most common appreciation that people have at the end of the programs is not what I've taught them, it's who they've become.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and there's no quiz, which theorist said this, but no, it's because it comes for us for someone to do narrative coaching, they have to be able to trust themselves and trust the moment and trust the field, and to do that, is novel for some of our participants who are used to more traditional trainings and educational systems. And so what I've never ever in my life even had anybody question or look for my certificates, or they just say, we want David because we like David and we see what David does. And the same way they're going to hire Max or you because they think, oh, I relate to this person. They seem to know what they're doing. I like the conversations I'm having with them. And I find that, you know, because otherwise you're just competing with 1,000 other coaches.
Yeah.
And so what we find is that a lot of our students report that they're getting different clients, they're getting better clients, they're getting clients that are uniquely tuned into them and what they're offering. We're getting a lot of our clients, speaking to, like, to you, Cher, we're getting a lot of coaches who are reporting that they're using more of their background and their unique sort of skills or experiences in their coaching. So it's giving them more confidence, like in Char's case, to go after an audience that they know a lot about, as opposed to just being a generic coach, and recognizing, as Char, as you checked, Jen, about that, the audiences we care the most about are unique. You know, I've never been a veteran. I've worked with veterans often, but I would not pretend to have the level of expertise that a lot of those folks might want. And so, again, it allows the coaches to show up with more of themselves, as opposed to parking themselves at the door so they can start coaching. Yeah.
Well, that would be good to have that experience more, have more of that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Andrea, to your point, that certification, whatever that is, whether it's David's certification, and David's is, you know, I got to the end. And you know, I loved writing the integrative papers, you know, at the end, because it really made us go back and think about, wow, this is what I learned and this is how it applies to me. And, you know, I mean, I can vouch for the fact that you do come out of the program a different person. And if you've gone through another program, and, you know, I've been through I'm a PCC level with the ICF. And, you know, I did that early on in my career because I was doing mostly executive corporate clients. And those people were requiring, you know, do you have an ICF certification? And now I find that to almost be offensive. You know, it's like, it is like, well, how about me? You know, it's okay. I can check that box. But along with that PCC, now I bring something different to the table. And I think one of the best compliments I've gotten of late was I've been working with a railroad. And one of the guys wrote on the evaluation, you know, Max is like one of the guys sitting around the campfire.
Yeah.
And that spoke volumes to me,
Yeah.
you know, that one of the guys, you know, and I was like, good. So, yeah, so the certification can be kind of a dodgy thing and a kind of a red herring too. I think, you know, people go, oh, I'm going to go to this program because I will get, you know, ICF certification. And it just depends on what your focus is.
Mm-hmm. No, I just tell people I wrote one of the first dissertations about coaching. I've taught in 40 countries.
Yeah.
You know, I've written 60 academically peer-reviewed papers on coaching. I know a lot about this topic.
Yeah, no, but are you ICF certified? Because
no,
if you're not, yeah.
You know, and so, you know, it's a big field. It has a lot of different kinds of people. Yeah. People need different things. Right. I don't. I early on I realized it. It just didn't speak to me. It didn't serve me. I didn't gain. I wouldn't gain. I started farther along than the stuff that they support. I kind of have a very divergent background. And so I thought I didn't even look back. I just kept going. And so I, you know, I'm accountable to my clients. My faculty gives me feedback. I'm constantly improving so that I feel like I'm doing better and better in my work. And I'm at a stage in my life and my career where I want to redefine the field, not be beholden to it. Yeah. But again, if I were starting out in coaching, then I might, like you were saying, Max, I might find ICF a great place to start.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a sense of what the whole thing's about. But yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if you are getting a certification as an entry point to the field, then you need to start thinking differently. It's like, if I have this, then I will be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where I've had to, I haven't unlearned, but I do things differently now.
Yeah.
And I am a bit of a renegade, like you were talking about. It's, like,
Yes, we may seem mild-mannered, but we're not.
yeah, really.
But it would be like, in some ways, I mean, it's obviously not life or death, but you wouldn't go to a doctor who went to 1 year of medical school. And so for me, it's not that I want to critique ICF. It's just like, if we're going to be a serious profession, we have to model ourselves after other serious professions.
Yeah.
And that's not going to come through basic competency models.
Right.
And so for me, that's just the beginning. And so we're actually having an event in March, built around a series of papers I'm writing to reimagine a completely different paradigm for assessing coaches.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Perfect. Be
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, and that'll be featured in the MI work going forward. Yeah.
MI work? What is that?
Oh, the Moment Institute's.
Oh, right. The moment. I thought motivational interviewing.
No. No, I've taught.
I know.
I've taught that in the past, but no, it's not this MI. Yeah.
It's like MI6.
Yeah.
I was like going, wait a minute, this is a military intelligence. What is this?
Yeah, where's James Bond when we need him?
Yeah, Shar has weighed in again on the meeting chat. If you cannot read it.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I just hadn't come down far enough. Okay, well, great. So thanks for coming, Shar. And yeah, we'll probably wrap this up in a little bit, but yeah, so great to have you here, and it would be great to have you in the program and support you in what you're trying to do with vets. So Andrea or Sarah, anything else you'd like to, or Max, you want to chime in about or ask before we maybe call it a day?
I'm okay, I think.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're most welcome.
I have one other question that's it's very specific to me, but you were asking earlier where I am. And I was wondering, is for the narrative coaching program, is that something that can be done if you are moving a lot?
Why is this screen?
I don't know.
I didn't do anything.
I don't know
Does
what
somebody
happened.
share their screen?
Because no one should have the capacity to share their screen.
Yeah, mine says I cannot.
Yeah, only I can, and I didn't do this.
It's Andrea's screen.
It is?
That's
Yeah.
what it said at the top. You're viewing Andrea and Aaron's screen.
How did that happen?
Well, go down to share screen at the bottom. It's a green button. Or go to the top and say stop. Yeah, because mine says you're viewing.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
yes.
Stop share. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. Clearly, somebody could share a screen.
The aliens
I
have
don't know
taken
how
over our
that
computer.
happened.
Anyways, I'm sorry, Sarah. So you asking somebody that moves around a lot?
Yeah.
She said
Yes,
she's a
because
nomad. I'm
I'm a
noticing this.
nomad. Yes, at the moment.
Yeah. So like I said, everything's recorded, everything's available. We've moved our programs over onto the Circle platform, so it's available 24/7 anywhere you want. It's got, we moved in part because it has a much more robust forum feature, way to meet people, connect with people, form small groups. So you can, and you'll have your mastermind group in Pure Triad, so you have sort of the intimacy of smaller groupings to kind of make you feel, help you feel more at home. So you shouldn't have any issues as long as you've got bandwidth with participating in the program.
Okay, perfect.
And how do you spell circle? Like CIRCLE?
Just like that.
Okay. I was waiting for some smart remark, but I was like, just
I restrained myself, Max.
yeah, you did.
Yeah, it wasn't one of those like one of those sort of tech abbreviations or kind of
Yeah.
weird spellings. And so we've got two of our two key team members are both in Florida, so you're in good space. But yeah,
But I won't be here for long. I'll be in Washington, D.C. and then Europe. I'm going back to Portugal and the UK, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And are you, is this part of a choice you're making as a way to live for now, or is it just?
Yes, I started this in March. I decided I wanted to go as a test run because I'm considering moving to Portugal long term. So
Okay, well,
next
great. Well, I'm in a similar boat. I've got my daughters in Europe for school, and I've taught a lot in Europe. I prefer the European way of living,
Yes.
in a way.
Me too.
And so I've been experimenting over the last year. I'm going to another experiment in Scotland in March.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I will either be moving multiple places or I will be getting a digital nomad visa and staying in Portugal for a year.
Okay. Well, if you join the program, you'll have to give us updates. I'd be curious to see how this unfolds for you and how you come to decide.
Are you doing this? I'm just curious if you're doing it on your own, because I've been reading a lot about Portugal.
Yes, I'm doing it on my own.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like this nomad visa. Is that a real thing?
it is.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of them started during during the pandemic when lockdowns happened. A lot of countries realized how many people were in their country without an official visa, who were staying like the 90 days or whatever of the Schengen zone time and then hopping to another country, and then they were stuck. And so then they started looking at, well, it's actually not a bad thing to have their money here.
Yeah.
Let's give them a pathway to be able to stay longer.
Yeah, and some of the early efforts of that weren't very well supported. They would promise all kinds of things, but they wouldn't really deliver them as a country. But now there's more, it seems like there's more. I just saw something the other day about a Portuguese man in California in the Bay Area was really successful and is forming this whole like ego community in Portugal and this sort of California, Portugal kind of connection. And so I think the industry, if you will, is really maturing and more countries are figuring out how to do this. And I don't think we'll ever have workplaces like we had before ever again. Ever again. And this is just the beginning of that experimentation. And yeah, so I think it's fascinating.
Well, yeah, we're kind of in shock here in Texas because, I live outside of Dallas, and because of our low cost of living, and the cost of housing is relatively inexpensive, people are just flocking to this area. And I keep going, where are they working? And then I realize anywhere. They're working anywhere. So yeah, crazy.
It's a whole new world, I guess, after.
Yeah, it is, Sarah. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Can I email you?
Answer your question, Sarah?
Sorry? No, I didn't have any more. Andrea, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered if I could email about how you're going about that process, because I've been thinking about that for quite some time now.
Sure. I will drop my.
I can put my email in the chat. I don't care.
There you go. Nope, I just typed it up for you. It's there.
Oh, let me.
There you go.
Thank you. Yes.
it's Spregmo Wrights. My maiden name was Pregman, so Spregmo.
Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
thank you.
Of course.
Hmm.
Greg Mo, okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming to join us. It's been a fun conversation. I'm always curious where these things end up. And if we can answer any more questions, let us know. Otherwise, well, hopefully we'll see you in a program later this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Care, everybody.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.